You're listening to LoopIt Radio, hosted by Alex and Sandra.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are taking a truly rigorous deep dive into what we're calling total immersion, really, the real-life playbook for learning a language fast. Our main source material, it follows the journey of a student, Maria from Spain. She travels to New York City, this, huge, big and noisy place specifically to master English. And our mission for this deep dive, it's pretty practical. We want to pull out the essential things, the stuff you can actually do for quick language learning and really fitting into the culture. This isn't just reading about learning. It's about how Maria used every single part of this busy new city, the subway, the cafe, everything as her classroom, a real-time, high-stakes classroom. We're really digging into a kind of practical guide here for turning the foreign city into this supportive but also demanding learning zone.
Yeah. And that idea, supportive and demanding, that's where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? If you look right at the beginning of her story, the source gives us that psychological side straight away. Maria gets to the airport and she's got this powerful, really intense mix, excitement, but also she's deeply nervous. She calls the city overwhelming right off the bat, big and noisy, full of tall buildings. This isn't just a trip, it's a huge leap of faith, really. Calculated, but risky. And that initial feeling, that vulnerability, it's critical because it means she has to commit right away, but it also means she needs human connection, immediately. What's fascinating, I think, is how fast she finds this kind of linguistic safety net. She meets her roommate, Anna, from Brazil, who's there for the exact same reason. They're both dealing with the same fear, the same sensory overload.
All right, so Anna's not just a roommate. She becomes this immersion buddy. They're sharing this intense, vulnerable thing, feeling happy to have someone to talk to in our new city. But the key thing, and we need to track this, is how they use that shared space. Did they just fall back into Spanish or Portuguese? Nope. Their shared goal made English the language of the apartment. That partnership, it was central for learning, for emotional support, literally from day one.
Exactly. And that heads off one of the biggest problems with immersion, right? Getting stuck in those expat bubbles. By having a roommate who wants to learn English too, but doesn't speak her native language, they were kind of forced into practicing English in a safe place, their home, before they even had to deal with the chaos outside. It's almost the perfect setup.
Okay, so that strong support system at home lets Maria walk into the formal classroom ready to soak it all up instead of being, frozen with anxiety. Let's talk about that first classroom. It sounds like it was set up to mirror the global feel of New York itself. The teacher, Miss Parker, created this really multicultural environment. You had Hiroshi from Japan, another Maria from Mexico, Ahmed from Egypt. So right away, English isn't just a subject they're studying. It's the only way they can communicate, the required tool for just existing in that room. It forces them to actually use their skills productively from the get-go.
And Miss Parker, she was smart. She laid down the philosophy before the grammar rules. 2 core rules, basically non-negotiable. First, practice is very important. Okay, that's a given. But the second one, that's the psychological key. Do not worry about making mistakes. Making mistakes is part of learning. And that's more than just encouragement. It's like a necessary mental adjustment. In a lot of cultures, making a mistake in public is, it's deeply embarrassing. Miss Parker just takes that fear off the table immediately. She shifts the focus. It's not about being perfect, which is impossible anyway. It's about participating, trying, getting the words out. If you're too scared to fail, you just won't learn. And this opened the door for her whole approach, pushing them to use all 4 skills: speaking, listening, reading, writing in English every single day.
And you see that toolkit put to work right away. For speaking practice, first up, Maria's paired with Hiroshi. And their conversation, it wasn't some dry academic exercise. It was functional, personal, talking about their countries, their hobbies. Hiroshi likes anime. Maria wants to be a writer. They were helping each other out, correcting those early awkward mistakes together.
Yeah, and the value there, which people often miss, is they immediately start doing what linguists call negotiating meaning. They weren't just talking at each other. They had to clarify, ask again, figure out what the other person meant through their accent. That's a totally different skill than just chatting with a native speaker.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. And the classroom gave them specific help for the trickiest bit, listening. Miss Parker got that native speech can just sound like noise at first. So she didn't just play recordings once, she played them several times. Maria actually said that each time she understood a little more, which really highlights how listening improves gradually. Your brain starts mapping the sounds to meanings, but it takes repetition.
I wonder, though, was Miss Parker maybe a little too nice? I mean, that no mistakes thing is great for confidence, sure, but does it really prepare them for the cafe? Where messing up might mean, giving someone the wrong order, real consequences.
That's a fair point. The classroom can't fully replicate the real world, obviously, but its job here is more about building that stable foundation. What's interesting about Ms. Parker's structure, though, is how she deliberately built scaffolds, using reading and writing to kind of cement the speaking and listening skills, make it all stick better. They read a short story about moving to a new city. Talk about relevant, right? That connection to Maria's own life makes the learning much more memorable.
Right. The curriculum is actually mirroring their real experience.
Exactly. And after the writing exercise, describe your favorite place back home. Maria wrote about her beautiful beach. And crucially, the source mentions that keeping a journal helped her remember new words, practice putting sentences together. This connects that personal reflection directly to holding on to the language. Just the act of searching for the right word to describe her golden sand beach, that's active vocabulary building. Much more powerful than just memorizing lists.
Yeah, okay. And we shouldn't forget those early confidence boosts either, like the assignment where they gave short talks about their home countries. Maria talking about Spain, the culture, landmarks. She was nervous, sure, but actually doing it, getting through that public speaking task, it helped her move beyond just repeating phrases. She was starting to own a narrative in English that forces you to think on your feet under a bit of pressure. A necessary step before facing, say, a busy lunch rush. Okay, let's step outside the school now. Because here's where it gets really interesting. Maria and Anna, they knew the classroom was important, like an incubator.
Yeah.
But the real language gains, they happen out on the street, right? They had to break through that classroom wall.
Yes.
And their strategy, it was quite methodical. First, they just expanded their learning space physically, exploring the neighborhood, sitting in a park. Then they brought it inside. They kept practicing English, even doing everyday things like cooking dinner. Anna saying, "Pass me the salt, please," over pasta.
Yeah.
That's small, but it's crucial. It turns simple requests into real, necessary communication. They basically made their apartment a little language lab.
And that practical use quickly showed them they needed something more demanding. Anna had the insight. They needed part-time jobs to practice English way more often. This decision, it's really the turning point in the whole story, isn't it? It shifts learning from something optional, something they chose to do, to something required for, well, high-stakes survival almost, paying the bills. So they went straight to the job center for advice, and the staff there, they nailed it. Working in a cafe or a shop, that would maximize their English practice. Why? Because it forces constant repetitive interactions with customers. Even filling out the job applications wasn't just paperwork. It was a real writing task, needing a professional tone.
And they landed the trial run at the cafe, didn't they?
Yeah.
With the manager, Lucy. And they were totally upfront about why they wanted the job, improve English, learn the culture. And Lucy, who sounds pretty great, appreciated their honesty and gave them a shot. So now the stakes are way, way higher. Deliciously higher, you might say.
Oh, yeah.
That cafe became the ultimate training ground. High frequency, real-time practice. They had clear tasks. Taking orders, making drinks, serving food, cleaning up. The source mentions it was tough at first learning the cash register, those complicated coffee machines. That's not just grammar practice anymore. That's specific job vocabulary, procedural stuff, which is often way harder than textbook English.
The language shift here is huge. In class, they learned how to describe things, tell stories. At the cafe, they learned pragmatics, how to actually use language in social situations. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that cafe job demanded like 4 skills all at once. 1, super fast listening, trying to catch orders over the noise. 2, confirming and clarifying, using those set phrases for here or to go. Could you say that again? 3, being polite, using may I, could you, apologizing smoothly. 4, upselling, suggesting things. That's proactive language, not just reacting. Marie's first customer ordering a latte and a croissant, she had to immediately repeat the order back. That loop, repeating and confirming, that's how you check your understanding in the real world. Instant feedback.
And yeah, let's be real, mistakes are going to happen. Maria forgot the sugar in someone's coffee. But this is where that supportive environment Lucy created really mattered. The customers were cool about it. Instead of it being a disaster, the mistake was just a quick lesson. Apologize, fix it, move on.
Exactly.
This constant, fast-paced interaction, even when they were tired, it just rocketed their skills forward because they had to think and speak instantly. I have to ask, though, that level of exhaustion, working and studying full-time in a new language, sounds like burnout waiting to happen. Did the source say how they managed that pressure?
That's a really critical question. The source implies that just the need to work plus getting that immediate language feedback kind of fueled them. But the key thing that helped them cope, it was the human connection. And that's where the detail about Mr. Johnson comes in.
Ah, right. The regular customer.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson. The elderly guy came in every morning, black coffee, newspaper. He was a specific kind of language opportunity. Because he was a regular, Maria could sort of predict his routine, his order. That lowers the anxiety of the interaction. But talking to him went beyond just coffee. Maria started sharing things about Spain, its beautiful places. This longer practice with a patient native speaker, it reinforces that cultural exchange, and it builds stamina for longer conversations, something you don't get from a quick transactional latte to go.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson provided this predictable, friendly conversation practice, which kind of balanced out the stress of the unpredictable rush hour.
So the result was pretty clear then.
Yeah.
Maria felt her vocabulary, her understanding, just getting better every single day. And she credited both things, the structured lessons with Miss Parker and the demanding real-world practice at the cafe. She actually noted she felt way more comfortable speaking and understanding. That's a direct result of moving from knowing about the language in Section 1 to having to actually use it functionally in Section 2. So Maria got it. Fluency isn't just words, it's understanding the context. She knew that real immersion meant getting truly curious about the culture. So her weekend trips, they weren't just tourist stuff. They were like self-assigned homework, specific exercises to soak up the culture through English.
Yeah, deliberate practice.
Let's break down how she used these famous landmarks as learning tools. Times Square, total sensory overload. Amazing, she said. Lights, screens, crowds. Linguistically, that tests your ability to read signs quickly, ads, whatever, and your ability to filter sound, block out the noise to actually hear Anna talk.
Then you get the complete opposite, Central Park. A place to rest, have quieter conversations about family, home, practicing more personal, reflective English, getting away from the cafe script. But the real focused effort came with the museums. At MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, they deliberately made themselves read the info panels about the paintings in English. They helped each other figure out the art words. They understood that, cultural stuff comes with cultural language. Yeah. You can't really talk about a Rothko painting without understanding words like abstract.
Okay, but we need to really dive into the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, because that visit was seriously planned out. Maria learned specific kind of high-level art words in class before they even went. Ms. Parker taught them exhibit, gallery, sculpture, masterpiece.
Preloading the vocabulary.
Exactly. It was like giving them a specialized dictionary just for that museum trip so they could walk through the Egyptian art section, read about artifacts, a mummy, then admire the European paintings like Van Gogh's Starry Night. They weren't just looking. They were reading the descriptions and comparing that to what they were seeing. That dual input visual and text really makes things stick.
And crucially, they use the audio guide. That's pure, standardized native English, usually spoken clearly. It feels like a personal tour, right? And it exposes you to complex sentences, flowing descriptions, without the pressure of having to reply immediately. Essential for training your ear to handle more complex grammar. And then, while looking at a sculpture, Maria has this totally natural conversation. She meets Emma, an art student from NYU, and Emma gives her recommendations. Check out the Impressionist Gallery. Don't miss the American Wing. This was gold star practice because it wasn't planned. Maria had to switch gears quickly, understand directions, respond naturally. It cements the learning that just happened. That's the difference between rehearsed classroom English and real spontaneous chat.
And that drive for reading mastery continued outside the museum and the classroom too, showing they knew they needed authentic stuff, real books. They went to a bookstore, recognizing, okay, we need more advanced material now.
Yeah, leveling up.
Maria bought The Catcher in the Rye, which is famously tricky, right? Full of slang, informal American talk, that unique voice. She knew it was a challenge.
Yeah.
Anna Got to Kill a Mockingbird, a classic, maybe more straightforward narrative, but still rich language.
Let's think about the mental work out there. Catcher in the Rye forces Maria to deal with messy, real-world American English, the kind of slang she'd hear from customers or friends. Mockingbird, while still challenging, has a clearer story arc, helping Anna practice following a longer narrative. They weren't just reading for pleasure, they were dissecting the language of the culture itself.
Yeah.
And their strategy for tackling it made it doable. Dictionary always nearby, writing down new words and meanings in a notebook. And this is key, talking about the books together. That teamwork turned what could be a lonely, frustrating task into yet another chance for shared language practice. They even discussed characters like Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice, which Maria picked up at a flea market. They're weaving English into their intellectual lives now, not just their study schedule.
And all this comes together, the formal learning, the cultural deep dives at that special school event, the Multicultural Exchange Day. This sounds like the peak of sharing culture and needing pretty high-level language skills.
Definitely.
Maria didn't just bring food. She had to give a whole presentation about Spanish festivals, La Tomatina, running of the bulls, and she shared traditional sweets, turrón. That requires using complex descriptions, explaining cultural context, probably using different tenses, all while her classmates are watching.
And then the potluck lunch afterwards, that puts it all into practice. You've got sushi from Japan, tacos from Mexico, falafel from Egypt, brigadeiros from Brazil. It forces them to use English to talk about food flavors, ingredients, how things are made, traditions. Simple words aren't enough there. You need rich sensory language. It just reinforces the fun of learning together and gives them another reason to keep talking constantly in English. Okay, so by this stage in her journey, Maria wasn't just functional. She had practical fluency from the cafe work. Now the teaching could shift gears, move towards the really tough stuff, the finer points, the nuances of English.
Right.
Ms. Parker started focusing hard on complex grammar, specifically those tricky verb tenses like the perfect tenses have done, had done. Those often don't map directly from Spanish, causing confusion about, when something finished or how long it lasted. And then the notoriously difficult area, prepositions. For a Spanish speaker, figuring out in the car versus on the bus versus at the station, it means kind of rewiring how your brain thinks about space and location.
Oh, totally. Prepositions of time, place, direction, they seem tiny, but they change the whole meaning. That's where English can feel really illogical sometimes. So that led to a speaking activity where they had to use these tricky rules in context, right? Maria and Hiroshi describing their favorite places. Again, the Hershey's Temple in Kyoto, Maria's beach. Using it in context, that's the key, isn't it? You're not just reciting a rule. You're actually saying, the temple is in Kyoto and there are trees around it, and I felt peaceful at that moment. It locks in practical understanding, not just book knowledge. But the real mountain to climb now, if you want full integration, is idioms, those quirky phrases. Ms. Parker explained, these phrases have meanings that aren't literal at all, but they're everywhere in everyday English. For someone relying on direct translation, idioms are like cognitive traps.
Oh, I feel that. Trying to learn idioms in another language, it can feel completely absurd. Why do cats and dogs fall from the sky when it rains hard? It forces you to accept that language isn't just logic. It's also cultural convention, shared understanding.
Exactly. So Ms. Parker made it fun but necessary. They practiced common ones, raining cats and dogs, obviously, piece of cake, which Maria apparently used about her presentation, showing she found it easy, and break the ice for making new friends. This is basically teaching abstract thinking in English. And then you get the payoff moment. Maria uses "it's raining cats and dogs" with a customer at the cafe, spontaneously, correctly. And the customer totally got it. She said using an idiom like that successfully gave her this amazing feeling, like a real shift from just knowing stuff to actually using the culture's language. That's a massive psychological win.
Huge win.
And that win fuels the next step. Just keep practicing, keep building community. Maria didn't stop looking for places that forced her to use English. She joined a book club. Anna helped her find it to meet new people with similar interests, still reading To Kill a Mockingbird, but now discussing it with a diverse group.
Yeah.
And she used movies with subtitles. The Intern, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty are mentioned specifically to work on her listening. That's often the last skill to really sharpen up. Movies give you real conversational speed, modern slang, plus all the nonverbal cues you miss in classroom audio.
And all this learning kind of came together in that final debate activity, right? That required real command, arguing a point. Maria argued for learning a second language, talking about communication, new perspectives.
Yeah.
Think about what that takes. Forming a structured argument, using sophisticated linking words, on the other hand. In conclusion, handling counter-arguments, keeping your cool while speaking formally. Being able to lay out a reasoned opinion like that in a debate setting. That shows serious linguistic confidence, way beyond just basic fluency.
And finally, Maria's journey doesn't just end with accomplishment, it ends with ambition. Her first goals were just survive, study, now, create, contribute. Anna planned to keep studying, find a marketing job in New York. Maria's ambition was even bigger. Finish the language course and maybe write a book in English. They both had this powerful realization. They had big dreams and were determined to achieve them. They hadn't just learned a language, they'd unlocked new potential in themselves. #tagged outro.
So what does this all boil down to for you, the listener, maybe facing your own immersion challenge or thinking about it? Maria's story, it really gives us a full blueprint for making total immersion work. And it hinges on radical integration, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
We can pull out those main strategies, like 4 connected pillars. 1, structured practice, the classroom stuff. 2, necessity, the pressure and feedback from work, the cafe. 3, strong community support, Anna, friends, the book club. And maybe the most important, 4, just persistent, self-driven curiosity about the culture museums, festivals, tackling hard books.
The key lesson seems to be about balance and where you put your energy. Maria didn't ditch the formal study, no, but she definitely put most of her effort into constant real-world use. Learning isn't just about memorizing words, it's about demanding you use them and sharing the experience.
So we'd encourage you to think about your own cafe moments. Where can you inject some of that necessity into your learning? Where can you turn a simple, everyday thing, ordering food, filling out a form, chatting with someone you see regularly, into vital, high-stakes practice?
Yeah.
Remember that picture the source paints? Maria and Anna toasting their progress with empanadas? It just underlines that mix, right? The hard graft combined with shared cultural fun, that's what makes language learning stick and actually feel rewarding.
Maria's journey really proves that fluency isn't about getting a perfect score. It's fundamentally about building the confidence to risk messing up and having the courage to just dive into a new culture without fear. The language is the tool, sure, but that psychological commitment, that's the engine. So the question we want to leave you with, inspired by Maria's own big dreams at the end, is this. If you were stepping off that plane tomorrow into some big, noisy new city, what's the one non-classroom challenge, maybe creative, maybe professional, maybe social? What's the first thing you tackle to make sure your learning takes off immediately?
Thanks to Alex and Sandra for hosting today's episode. Catch you in the next one.